All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to unpack two of the most powerful and honestly most misunderstood metaphors in all of history. These weren't just some nice poetic phrases. No, they were radical declarations of identity and purpose given to a bunch of ordinary people on a mountainside 2,000 years ago.
And it all kicks off with this. Can you just imagine being there, hearing this for the first time? Jesus has just finished turning the world's values completely upside down, and then he looks out at his followers, fishermen, tax collectors, regular folks, and says, you are the salt of the earth. What in the world could he have meant by that?
So to really get the full impact here, you have to picture this scene. Jesus has just delivered the Beatitudes, this totally revolutionary list of who's actually blessed in God's kingdom. The crowd must have been buzzing, thinking, okay, what comes next? And he answers them by defining their entire purpose with these two world-changing metaphors.
So let's start with that first one, salt. For you and me, it's just a shaker on the kitchen table, right? But for his first-century audience, being called salt was absolutely packed with meaning. This wasn't just a simple compliment. He was handing them a critical mission. Just look at this contrast. Today, we think of salt as, a simple flavor enhancer. But back then, it was a vital preservative. It was a super valuable commodity. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in it. And it was a symbol of permanence. It was a matter of life and survival, not just taste.
So for that ancient audience, salt had two main jobs, two vital functions. First and most importantly, it was a preservative. It literally stopped things from rotting and going bad. And second, it was a flavoring agent that just made everything better. These aren't just little details. They're the keys to unlocking this whole idea.
And get this, there's some seriously cool science behind why it works. It's a process called osmosis. See, salt isn't passive. It's an active agent. It literally pulls the moisture right out of the bacteria that cause decay, which makes them shrivel up and die. It's a powerful, powerful force for preservation.
And here's a perfect real-world example. For centuries, the entire economy of places like Newfoundland depended on this exact process. Fishermen would pack their fresh cod in these thick, heavy layers of salt because it was the only thing that could stop the fish from completely rotting on the long, long journey across the Atlantic. Salt literally meant survival.
So, with all that in mind, the spiritual connection just clicks into place, doesn't it? Jesus is telling his followers that their role in the world is to be a preserving agent against moral and spiritual decay, that by living out his teachings, they are meant to actively push back against the corruption that would otherwise spoil everything around them.
But right after giving them this incredible identity, he hits them with a really serious warning. What happens if the salt loses its saltiness? What if it stops doing what it's supposed to do? Well, Jesus says it becomes useless, good for nothing. He's basically asking, what happens when you lose your unique preserving influence and just blend in? You lose your entire purpose.
And this idea goes even deeper into their history. The Old Testament actually talks about a covenant of salt, which was a symbol for an unbreakable permanent promise from God. Salt meant endurance. So for salt to lose its flavor wasn't just about being ineffective. It was like forgetting the very core of who you are and the promise you represent.
Okay, so that's salt. But he's not done. Not even close. Without missing a beat, Jesus gives them another identity. If being salt was all about that internal, preserving influence, this next one is about their external, totally visible impact. He says, you are the light of the world.
And the images he uses are just so practical and brilliant. A city on a hill. Anyone standing there in Galilee would have seen towns perched up on the hillsides. As the sun went down, the lights from all those homes would make the city impossible to miss. Jesus is saying a follower's influence is meant to be just as obvious, just as visible.
Then he uses the lamp analogy. It's just common sense, right? Who in their right mind would light a lamp, a valuable source of light in a dark home, and then immediately hide it under a basket? That's absurd. The whole point of a lamp is to give light to everyone in the house. In the same way, a life of faith is meant to shine.
And he gives them this super clear 3-step action plan. Step 1, let your light shine. Simple enough. Step 2, but how? By letting other people see your good works, your acts of love and mercy and justice. But step 3 is the whole point, the crucial part. The purpose isn't for your own glory. It's so that others will see those good things and give glory to God. The light is supposed to point away from you, back to its source.
And that leads to this critical distinction. Later on, Jesus says, I am the light of the world.
So his followers aren't the source of the light itself. They're more like reflectors. They're called to reflect the light of Christ into the darkness. Kind of like how the moon doesn't make its own light, it just reflects the light of the sun.
So when you put these two metaphors together, they don't fight each other. They're totally complementary. What you get is a complete, dynamic picture of this incredible two-part mission in the world.
This table lays it out perfectly. As salt, the influence works from the inside, quietly preserving what's good and stopping corruption. As light, the influence is a visible, public witness that shines outward, guiding others. So one is an internal stabilizer, and the other is an external guide. You need both.
And this brings us to what might be the most radical part of this entire teaching. It's all about the specific language he uses. It's so important.
See, Jesus doesn't say you should try to be salt, or hey, I want you to become light one day. No, he makes a statement of fact. He says you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. This isn't a job description to apply for. It's a fundamental identity to be lived out.
And so all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. Salt works quietly, almost invisibly, changing things from the inside out. Light works boldly, publicly, pushing back darkness from the outside in. How can one person or one community be both of those things at the same time? Well, that is the challenge and the incredible call of these powerful words.